work together on one field, Shedeur had his own field and his own teams to work with yesterday, and Stefanski and Berea were over there watching him, and he balled out. More on that in a minute. Tomorrow, you'll see they'll get back to action 11:20 with the interviews. We'll hear from Mike Bloomgren and Chad O'Shea and Brandon Lynch and some players. Kevin Stefanski will talk at 1:30, and I'm sure that's when everybody's going to be gathered around to find out, hey, Coach, did you change the pecking order of the quarterbacks? Did you change the reps? That's what everybody will be interested in tomorrow. I don't think we're going to hear anything tonight. They're not going to let any of this leak. They're just going to stay tight-lipped, and then we'll just have to find out when we find out tomorrow. Shoot, it might not be till 2 o'clock when they...
Let me start with this. NFL teams don't hold secret meetings in the middle of training camp unless something big just happened. This wasn't some casual staff huddle about rep counts or practice schedules. What went down in Berea was different. This was Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and the Browns' coaching brain trust shutting the doors, rolling the tape, and staring at one thing, Shedeur Sanders. And not just because he had a decent day, but because what he did on that field changed the entire conversation about the Browns' quarterback room. Picture this. It's practice. The big names, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, are doing their thing. The focus, at least from the outside, is on them. But off on his own field, Shedeur Sanders is quietly putting on a clinic. 8 completions on 11 attempts, 3 touchdowns, poise that doesn't make sense for a rookie, accuracy that has coaches doing double takes. This isn't a rookie just getting reps. This is a rookie making a statement. And it was so undeniable that Stefanski and Berry, the 2 men who ultimately control his future, walked across that field and watched it with their own eyes. You don't do that for just anyone. You do that when you realize you might be witnessing something that forces you to rethink your plan. Because let's be honest, Shedeur wasn't supposed to be this guy right now. 5th-round picks aren't supposed to make noise in July. They're supposed to develop quietly, take scout team reps, and hope for a preseason highlight or 2. But here's Sanders, not only holding his own, but outshining guys with more experience, more draft capital, and more hype. And that's why the Browns locked that meeting room door. They had to talk about it. They had to ask themselves, did we just stumble onto something we can't ignore? And this isn't just about a hot practice. This is about what it means. When your so-called developmental guy is dropping dimes like a seasoned pro, tearing apart the 2s and 3s like it's backyard football, you're no longer talking about a project. You're talking about a problem for every other quarterback in that room. Think about how this changes everything. The plan was simple. Flacco for stability, Pickett for a fresh start, Gabriel as the future. But now you've got Shedeur Sanders breaking the timeline, forcing his way into the conversation. And if he keeps doing this, Stefanski and Berry aren't going to be able to keep him off the field. That's why this meeting matters. This wasn't about evaluating reps. This was about re-evaluating the future. And if you're a Browns fan, you should be paying attention, because it feels like the quarterback hierarchy in Cleveland just got flipped on its head. And if you think this was just one good day in camp, wait until you hear what's really happening inside that QB room. The Browns thought they had their quarterback room figured out. On paper, it made sense. Joe Flacco, the steady hand. Kenny Pickett, the reclamation project. Dylan Gabriel, the carefully planned developmental future. And then, quietly, in the 5th round, they took Shedeur Sanders, a so-called luxury pick. A developmental guy. Someone who could sit, learn, and maybe contribute down the road. But that plan? It's already falling apart. Let's start with Joe Flacco. I'll give Joe his flowers. Super Bowl MVP, respected veteran, walked into chaos last year and gave Cleveland stability when they desperately needed it. But let's be honest, he's 39 years old, and that 4 for 11 performance in practice? That's not leadership, that's reality. He's a mentor now, not a future. And when the ball starts flying on Sundays, experience won't save you if you can't make the throws anymore. Then there's Kenny Pickett, the so-called safe option, a first-rounder once billed as Pittsburgh's future. But let's look at the numbers. 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions in 2 seasons. That's 1-for-1 mediocrity. And the Steelers, a franchise that knows quarterbacking better than almost anyone, didn't blink when they moved on. They saw what we all saw, a bridge quarterback, nothing more. And Dylan Gabriel. This was supposed to be the future. The carefully scouted, hand-picked project. But camp reports are painting a different picture. Batted balls, hesitation, and the adjustment pains you'd expect from a rookie transitioning to the NFL. That's fine for a long-term plan. But what happens when a different rookie walks in and looks like he's been here for years? That's where Shedeur Sanders comes in. Forget the fifth-round label. Forget the developmental project tag. Watch the tape. Look at the numbers. 8 for 11 with 3 touchdowns in a single session. Smooth footwork. Veteran-level pocket presence. Throws with anticipation, not just reaction. And it's not just the production. It's the energy. Teammates are gravitating toward him. Coaches are crossing fields just to watch him work. You can feel it. When Shedeur steps on the field, the room changes. And for a fan base like Cleveland, that means everything. Because this isn't just about who takes the first snap in week 1. This is about ripping that cursed jersey of broken promises off the wall once and for all. Couch, Quinn, Whedon, Manziel, Mayfield, Watson. They were all supposed to be the guy. They weren't. And now suddenly this rookie, this overlooked fifth-rounder, is making the city wonder, could he be the one? So how long can Kevin Stefanski really justify keeping Shedeur out of first-team reps? How long can you hide the guy who's outplaying everyone else? Because if he keeps doing this, that decision won't be up to Stefanski anymore. The locker room, the fan base, and Shedeur himself will force the issue. And when that happens, things in Cleveland could get very interesting, very fast. Shedeur Sanders was never supposed to be a fifth-round pick. Never. This is a quarterback who threw for over 70% in college behind one of the worst offensive lines in the nation. This is a quarterback with NFL bloodlines, polished mechanics, elite poise under pressure, and a football IQ that scouts themselves described as NFL ready. And yet, 160-plus names came off the board before his. How does that happen? How do NFL front offices, with all their analytics, all their film rooms, all their so-called evaluation expertise, let this guy slide to day 3? Make it make sense. But here's the thing. They didn't just miss. They exposed themselves. They showed the ugly truth about groupthink in NFL scouting. It's safer to nitpick than to believe your eyes. It's safer to downgrade a guy because of his last name than to judge his actual tape. It's safer to assume that if he played for Dylan Sanders at Colorado, then maybe the hype was bigger than the player. And in doing so, they let a franchise walk out of the draft room with the steal of the year. We've seen this movie before. Tom Brady? Passed over by every single team 6 times. Too slow. Too average. Dak Prescott? Overlooked because he didn't look the part. Russell Wilson? Written off because he didn't fit the prototype. All of them slid. All of them turned that humiliation into motivation. And you know what happened next? They rewrote the narrative. That's exactly what Shedeur is doing right now in Cleveland. He's taking that fifth-round label, that insult, that slight, and he's sharpening it into a weapon. Every rep, every throw, every meeting, it's all fuel. That's why you're seeing a rookie walk into camp and play like someone who's been here for years. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't here to survive. He's here to prove every scout who doubted him dead wrong. And that's why this feels less like a draft pick and more like a heist. Andrew Berry didn't just draft a quarterback. He accidentally stole one of the most NFL-ready passers in the entire class. This wasn't the plan, but it might be the best thing that's happened to this franchise in decades. And now, the Browns are sitting on a live wire, a fifth-rounder with first-round talent, a rookie who's already playing like he belongs. And the question that has to be eating Kevin Stefanski alive is this: how much longer can they keep this steal on the sidelines before he takes what's his? Because if history tells us anything, underestimated competitors don't stay quiet for long. You can't always measure greatness with a box score. You can't always see it in a 40-time or an arm strength chart. Sometimes it's something deeper, something you can't define but everyone in the building can feel. And right now, that's what Shedeur Sanders is bringing to Cleveland. He just looks different. It's in his composure. Watch the camp footage. He throws an interception. He doesn't hang his head or jog off quietly. He walks right over to his receiver, talks through the route, resets, and then delivers a strike on the very next rep. That's not normal rookie behavior. That's poise, the kind you usually see in quarterbacks with a decade of NFL scars, not a fifth-round rookie a few weeks into camp. And it's in his leadership. Reports from Berea keep saying the same thing. Veterans are gravitating toward him. This isn't a kid hiding in the back of the room just trying to survive camp. He's commanding huddles. He's taking ownership. When he steps on that field, it doesn't feel like a backup running reps. It feels like a quarterback leading his team. It reminds me of Jalen Hurts at Alabama, when everyone wrote him off after being benched and he came back sharper, hungrier, better than before. It's Russell Wilson in that 2012 Seahawks camp when he walked into a room with Matt Flynn and Tavares Jackson, both more established options, and made it clear within weeks that the job was his. That's the energy Shedeur has right now. And here's what gets me. The veterans are buying in. These are grown men with contracts, egos, and years in the league. But when Shedeur steps into that huddle, the tone changes. The offense looks sharper. The receivers fight harder for him. The rhythm is cleaner. That's what the great ones do. They elevate everyone around them. This isn't just a rookie making noise. This is a rookie rewriting the energy of a franchise. Maybe he's not just ahead of schedule. Maybe this is the guy. Maybe Shedeur Sanders isn't a long-term project or a future consideration. Maybe he's the present. Maybe he's the quarterback Cleveland has been waiting for. And if that's the case, then the conversation about the Browns' future just changed in a very big way. If Shedeur Sanders keeps playing like this, the Browns won't have a choice. They can't keep him in the shadows. They can't keep him buried on the depth chart. They will have to give him first-team reps, and if he handles those the way he's handled everything else, we might be talking about Shedeur Sanders as the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns before this season is over. And let that sink in for a second. A fifth-round pick, a developmental project, a guy who wasn't even supposed to sniff meaningful snaps this year, potentially becoming the heartbeat of a franchise that has spent decades wandering in quarterback purgatory. That's not just a storyline. That's a revolution in real time. Because this city, this fan base, it's been waiting for someone like him. You know the history, the heartbreak, the infamous jersey, the one with the endless list of next guys who all became nothing more than names to cross out. Couch, Quinn, Manziel, Mayfield, Watson. Each one came with hope. Each one left with disappointment. And yet here we are, standing at the edge of something that feels different. Because Shedeur Sanders doesn't just look like another quarterback trying to survive. He looks like a quarterback trying to transform this team, his poise, his command, his ability to make veterans follow his lead. These aren't flukes. They're the building blocks of something bigger. And I'll say it, if this continues, we might be witnessing the birth of a Browns team that finally has its identity. Picture it. It's February, confetti raining down, the Lombardi Trophy finally coming to Cleveland after more than half a century of waiting. And at the center of it all, a rookie who was overlooked, disrespected, and underestimated, but who turned that doubt into fuel and delivered the impossible. Does that sound crazy? Maybe. But tell me this, hasn't everything about Shedeur's story sounded crazy so far? From falling to the fifth round to dominating camp to having Stefanski and Berea quietly rethinking their entire quarterback plan. This is the improbable made real. So I'll leave you with this. Are you ready to believe? Are you ready to stop bracing for heartbreak and start embracing the possibility that this, right now, could be the turning point Cleveland has been waiting for? Because if Shedeur Sanders is who I think he is, if this energy we're seeing is real, then we're not just watching a rookie quarterback fight for reps. We're watching the beginning of a story that could end with Cleveland finally breaking free from its decades of pain. And when that moment comes, you're going to want to say you believed from the very start.